G'day guys, mTimTam here. Today we're going to make these 3 custom volume shaders. The first one you can see is an explosion looking shader with both an absorption and scattering set to black and a textured, textured emission with a ramp attached to it. Next is a volume gradients colored volume with both purple, red, and green. The next is a standard red volume shader utilizing the basics of the volume shader. And we can see in path tracing it looking a lot more defined. So let's start with the explosion first. First, go to medium and volume medium and place it to your first volume. And let's disconnect the other two first. So, first let's bring this to the basics. So let's put our scattering to white, just so we can see. First let's get the proper density. I want to get a more of a cloudy, puffy density. And I'll put the volume rate step to 1.5. It's cutting it on the slow side, however we get a lot more detail and a lot more planes with the explosion. Usually an explosion is usually black sooted texture, so we're going to apply a black absorption and black scattering. Not too black, but just enough. Next we're going to go to the emissions and add a textured emission. The default setup is highly too overpowered, so we're going to put the power to 1. We're also going to put the color texture to a warmish, fiery look. Next we're going to add an emission ramp just to make sure the fire is only allocated to the top. Although it's getting rid of the effect, let's have a lot more customization. In the volume ramp, we're going to add 2 color values. The first one's going to be 100% white, and the next one's going to be 100% black. We're going to move these to the top. Place the black to the first 0 and the white value to a 0.1 and make sure the max value is to 6.32. Here you have the ramp isolating the fire or the lighting strictly to the top, with the bottom being zeroed out. And we can also change the density more accordingly. I put the volume step down to 0.2 just to give it that more better effect. So let's just maximize this. That looks pretty cool. And utilizing the panels and the interactive rendering like we did before, we can troubleshoot the smoke and view it in the best possible way. Next is the color ramp. So let's get another medium and a medium volume, and let's place it to the volume. Now for the volume gradients, it's crucial to not have too much of a high density, otherwise the calculations would pick up all the micro particles and you'll just have a big giant solid black, which isn't what we want. So make sure the starting density is very low. First we're going to put the scattering to white and the absorption to white. In the absorption, we're going to add a volume gradient. From there, we're going to put the endpoint to a light green. we're also going to add about 3 different colors. Let's bring up the opposite of each color. That doesn't involve the green, blue, red, and light blue. From there, we're going to put the blue value here, the red value there, and the other light blue here. From there, we're going to change the max value until we can see a nice even response. First, now that we have the density right, let's bring up the density up a bit more now. Let's put the absorption down a tad, not too much above the 1, but just below it. And from there we can really see the dark colors. I'm just going to tone down the light blue since that's getting a bit too bright. There we go. And let's bring a little bit more red back in. Red looks a lot more better. Change the max value a bit just to even the colors out. Okay, that's a nice balance. So here we have a combination of blue, red, and it hues off to a light green. And from there you can change the density and your volume raise step along with your scattering and emissions. Actually, while we're here, let's add a quick emissions to it. So texture, put this down to 1. Let's give it a, what's a different color? Hot pink maybe? No, green. Put it to a green. And let's make that a bit more 0.1, yeah. Let's put a texture measure on too. And let's bring that, using the same techniques, we can slowly bring that up. We're just lowering the white point down a bit. Okay, so here we have a explosion that would make Johnny Depp jump for joy. I know that Johnny Depp was the first person that came to my mind with this magnificent fiery smoke. Alright, next is a standard volume shader that's getting a much more precise look for it. Same, we go to medium, volume medium, and connect that up. Let's put the scattering up. So let's put this down here because we're going to use a wavelength based. Let's put the absorption to red, scattering to a yellow. That looks a bit, yeah, about that. Let's put the volume step to 0.1.2, density, color onto the wall a bit. Oh, that looks good. It's like a different hue of green and red. I mean red and green. That looks so cool. And let's put the direction down a bit. Nice. And let's see how that looks like with a bit more of a high density. And just going under the ray step length to just to 0.8. It's going to be so slow, but we're going to get much more depth out of it. And let's just isolate that with the region render. Really picking up down there too. So, we have now made our own personalized volume textures. So, here we have made a very personal, three personalized volume textures utilizing all the available features that's in the nodes. In the next tutorial, we'll be going through animated smoke simulations, utilizing different placements that I went through in the previous tutorial last year with the placements with the meshes, proxies, and with it being animated. So that's something to look forward to. As you can see here with the rendering, very quickly you can see the light casting all the different spectrums of the smoke. A very nice feature for Octane to have. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.